Today I'm working on a Cat 924K loader. I wanted to do a video on this for a little while because both these loaders are pretty low hours. This one's just approaching 3,500 hours. Both I've had the same problem with, where the boom would be stuck up in the air. And this is, I'm simulating this in the shop, but while an operator was loading a gravel truck, it booms all the way up in the air with a bucket full of gravel, and all of a sudden it wouldn't come down. So it was like pressing this hydraulic lockout button here. He could still steer the loader, it would go into gear, but he had absolutely no boom function. So no up, down, raise, lower the boom, no tilt functions at all. Now this is a logged code, but this is the code that would come up, would be implement, pilot, pressure, supply, solenoid, current low is the code. There's the code, 358.5, 2 counts of that, 27 machine is your MID for that. So it says it's logged, so you got your hours and stuff. But anyways, that's the code that'll come up: implement, pilot, pressure, supply, solenoid, current low. Go into service, you can find that. Now we go back out to the main menu. What you'll find is when this happens is you'll have the red warning light will come up, it'll be flashing, and it'll say implement fault, I think is all it'll give you. And then you got to go into that menu, into your service menu here. I'm pretty sure you guys can, that's pretty easy to access. Go into diagnostics and then go into your code list there to find it. So go back out. Anyways, the reason why I'm making this is if you got a new operator, or even an experienced operator but hasn't had this happen before, where they lose all control functions, it's kind of confusing, the Caterpillar manuals. I don't like Caterpillar manuals, and I'm hoping that somebody from Caterpillar is watching this video, or does watch this video, so maybe you can make your manuals a little bit better. I understand that most guys are using electronic stuff, but if you're out in the field and this happens to the loader, you're probably going to have to use the printed manual, which is hopefully in the machine. So you go to your table of contents, and it says page 31 says equipment lowering with engine stopped. Pretty straightforward, isn't it? Let's go to page 31 and see what it says there. Equipment lowering with engine stop. So it goes through, make sure that there's nobody around when you do it, and safety and blah, blah, blah. Okay, so that's important, but the part that I want to draw attention to is highlighted here. Follow the established procedure in the operation and maintenance manual, equipment lowering with engine stopped, in the operations section of the manual. So you've seen I wrote page 155. Why is this even here? Why would you even put this here? Why not just put go to page 155? So this is the safety section, work tools. So you got it, and it doesn't even, and why not put page 155 here if you're going to have this useless paragraph here? I guess there's some safety stuff. That's why they refer to you here. It could all be on one page. So this is one of the things that frustrates me about Caterpillar in their manuals, the way they're formatted. They're absolutely horrible. I've worked with a lot of other manuals, and they're all fairly easy to find. So anyways, I've marked the page 155. So page 155. So here's our procedure. It tells us, I'm not leaving the machine, but anyways, it shows where the valve is. Right? So page 155 is actually right here. So here we have not idle shutdown. Okay, equipment lowering with engine stopped. Yes, page 155 in the manual here. So you go down, lowering the equipment with the accumulator discharged. So it gives you the procedure here. This is the location of the valve. So it tells us it's in the bypass valve is located at the center articulation joint of the machine on the right side. That looks pretty simple, doesn't it? Can you tell where that is by looking at this picture? Can you? Probably not, hey? Let's go down. Now, when the machine's delivered, the salesman will probably tell you where it is, but after a couple of years of not having to do this, you probably forget where it is. So let's take a look at where it is on this machine. Can you see it? Pretty obvious, isn't it? Anyway, I painted it red, so there it is, right there. It's kind of behind this pipe, so that's where you'll find it. Is you can just follow your hoses from your lift cylinders up, and all this is going to do is lower the boom down. You're not going to gain any control functions from doing this. You're still not going to be able to unhook the bucket or anything, but you will be able to run the machine to the shop. So a 3/8 wrench fits on the valve. Try and get a better shot of what I'm doing here. When you open this valve up, you'll hear hydraulic flow. Okay, which way is she going here? Doesn't want to move. You could put a handle on this valve, but I think the reason why they don't want it, there we go, so I gotta go clockwise. They don't want the handle to, doesn't want to move. So the valve seized up, it looks like. That's great. Okay. All right, I just got a crescent wrench on there. It's not the greatest access in here. You gotta reach behind that wire loom and hose harness. So I'm just gonna turn it clockwise. It did turn a little bit there, but boy, is this tough. Come on now. There we go. Okay. See, I just cracked it a little bit. You can hear the flow happening. Make sure nobody's underneath it, of course. There we go. So I don't open it all the way up. I just crack the valve until it starts to move nice and slow like that, so it doesn't come down too fast. It's gonna be nice and controlled. And down she comes. If you wanted to keep it up in the air a little bit, you can always shut the valve back off again too. It's probably not a bad idea to exercise these valves. Like, it took quite a bit to get it to move there. Just to make sure, once in a while, just open it and close it when you're doing an oil change or something. So crescent wrench works too, but a 3/8 goes right on there, or you could just buy a handle for the valve. Okay, so that's how you get it lowered. Now I want to talk about the part you're going to need. The solenoid valve and where it's located. So what I found with this one is the solenoid valve will get hot. I've got one here, somewhere right here. So this is the coil for the solenoid valve. That's what you're going to need. It's a Hydroforce, but it's probably built specifically for a CAT machine. So you're going to have to go to your dealership to get this. What I found is the solenoid will be really hot when it starts to fail. And I'm not saying you just change it as soon as it gets hot. They get hot under operation, but I'll show you the part number here. They get hot under operation normally, but I mean, you touch this thing, it's gonna burn your hand. And I've had that a couple times with solenoid valves, not just on this machine, but on another machine for a park brake solenoid. And you know, like I say, you gotta check your resistance across the valve. But one thing that I've found too is this one's pretty good, but inside here you'll get corrosion between the solenoid coil, and your valve, the hydraulic valve. When that happens, that can cause too much resistance and it seems to cook the solenoids. So just because it's really hot doesn't necessarily mean that you know, that's not the way you diagnose it. You're still going to do resistance checks and voltage checks and ground and all that. But that's just one of the signs. That's one thing that's going to help you diagnose it, is it's going to be really hot. Also, so the resistance in the coil on the valve, this electrical coil solenoid, is going to go up as the heat raises, of course. So when it's really hot, you might end up, the boom won't come down, or you'll lose your functions. Now, the next day I got in this same machine when the coil was cold and I had all the hydraulic functions. So if it's intermittent like that, you're probably going to be changing this. Okay, especially if you do your resistance checks, you got a good ground to that, got good voltage. Chances are, you know, the switch is good. Chances are you're going to throw one of those coils on there and the problem goes away. So let's look at how to diagnose it now. So then again, we're going to look at Caterpillar's awesome manuals here, show you how good they are. Now, like I say, I got the electronic copy as well with SIS, and a lot of guys are going to be using that. But if you do have a printed manual, because that's what our dealer gave us, you can go into diagnostic trouble codes in your systems section. Okay, and you can just go through here, find your code, and it'll say go to your solenoid valve test on there and just carry out the test. I couldn't even find the solenoid valve test. It's in the valve, it's in the manual. Oh, that's disassembly and assembly. It's later on in the troubleshooting steps. These are all for sensors. So like I say, there's no reason why you couldn't just put page whatever, you know, 86, whatever, wherever that solenoid valve test is. There's absolutely no reason why they couldn't just refer you to the page number. It's just, that's what these manuals are like. So I usually find that you got to go into the index and find it. Now I'm back into systems operations section here of electrohydraulic systems. So the valve that you're looking at is solenoid valve implement. It's this one right here, number 9. Can you see where it is on the machine? That's pretty obvious, isn't it? You know, you could probably, if you've never worked on this machine before, I'm sure you could just walk out there and find that valve, couldn't you? Probably not. Anyway, anybody familiar with the machine knows where the control valve is, and this is because it's solenoid valve. It's like your lockout. It'll tell you here, number 9, solenoid valve hydraulic lockout. Okay, now the description's different. Another thing that Caterpillar always does. Solenoid valve hydraulic lockout. Well, we had implement supply valve is what the code said. So you've got to kind of translate and just figure this out from knowledge, I guess. Pretty ridiculous. Now, where is it on the machine? Okay, so one thing that I do like about Caterpillar manuals is they have really, really good schematics. So here's one here, but they're really big if you're using the actual hard copies, like the paper copy. You can see how this thing folds out like 8 different ways. But here it is right here. So it shows you this still isn't the greatest illustration of it, but you can see your accumulators and things. So this is your control valve for all your implements. And the lockout valve is this one right on the end, of course. So that's your supply. That's why they call it lockout, but it supplies oil to all your function valves. So your tilt and your boom up and your auxiliary valve are all in here. And they're all electronic. The coil for your lockout valve, the one that we're diagnosing today, or the one that I'm talking about, is a different part number from all these other ones. So you want to make sure that you order the right one. And when you find the description, let's go to catparts.com. It just says valve assembly solenoid. So when you go into your parts manual, I don't have my parts manual open, I just went through the service manual. You got to find out which one it is, and it has another description as well. But this is your part number here, right there, for your boom lockout solenoid. That's what you want. It'll come as a whole valve, not just the coil. So where is it located? It's located in the front of the machine. I've got the boom down now, but all you got to do is remove this plate here. You got to get the boom up, and then you can get a pretty straight shot in there. It's pretty easy to change it. It's pretty obvious which one it is too. If you can't get the boom up, to raise the boom, you could open this. You probably open that lowering valve and lift the boom with another machine or with a hoist. If not, you got to get underneath here, and it's up in there. Let's see. Above the front diff. It's not going to be easy to get at. Okay, so hopefully you can get the boom back up in the air when you get it back to the shop. Like I say, you can't get the bucket off because you lose your bucket coupler function and everything. Okay, I just remembered I wanted to show you in the parts manual. So like I say, lots of guys are going to be using SIS or your catparts.com, parts.cap.com. I was able to look this up because I had the part number and I was able to enter it. If you don't have that part number, it's gonna be tough to enter to find this. Now in the manual, this is the kind of stuff I'm talking about with the Caterpillar manual. So here's our control valve. This is obvious. It says hydraulic system, group, main control valve for function. That's on this machine. That's what we're looking at. And this is the solenoid valve that we need right here. So you can see it. Now you go over the page here. Well, look at this. Now they just show you one part of the hydraulic control valve. They don't have anything identifying the valve that we need. But anyway, it's number 3 here. So that's this part of the control valve, sandwich valve type thing that bolts onto the end. This is going to be your supply. Now remember, our code in the machine on the monitor, the warning that it's going to give you says implement fault, implement solenoid valve fault, implement supply is the code that you're going to get. The warning that comes up on the monitor is even more vague. Number 3 on here. Let's see, and then our service manual said hydraulic lockout solenoid valve. It named it something different. Now let's go here and see 2513268. Yeah, that's the valve that we need. Now let's see what it says. Solenoid valve, ride control, lift cylinder head end. Yeah, look at that, eh? This valve here says relief, lift cylinder head end. So number 3 here is called ride control, lift cylinder head end. But that is the valve that we need, that is called on there just a solenoid valve assembly, and is also called hydraulic lockout. Isn't that really straightforward and easy to understand? I'm being sarcastic if you didn't notice. So anyways, that's just one of the things that Caterpillar does that's very annoying and makes looking up parts. I know the Cat guys that have done their apprenticeship at a dealership and they're really familiar with the manuals, and they use, like I say, like it's better to use the online parts lookup. It's a little easier. Mine's just down at the time at the moment. I'm waiting for an update. Yeah, that's sometimes a little easier to find it, but the description changes from the code to the parts book to your repair manual. The part description changes 3 times, plus the operator's manual is set up just totally idiotic. Anyway, hopefully somebody from Caterpillar watches this video and realizes my disdain for your manuals, and please start to write them in a more easy to understand way so that we can diagnose and fix your equipment better. The equipment I like and the schematics I like. I just don't like the way the manuals are written. So there you have it. This is the machine. It's been a good machine all around, but I would say that it's probably good to keep one of the solenoid valves for the main control valve in case you lose a single function and that comes up. So I just thought that would hopefully help some people, because I found that it wasn't the most straightforward process written out in the manual of how to lower the boom in the case that this happens to you. So I want to thank everybody for watching. Hit like and subscribe if you're finding my videos helpful and you like the content. I want to welcome all my new subscribers as well. Got up over 200. Got lots more stuff coming up this summer. It's going to be busy, but I'm going to try and keep uploading content from some car shows and stuff like that, and some other projects that I'm doing at home as the summer goes on. Take care, everyone.